All right, everybody. Hey, it's 20 minutes with Bridgette. Today is Wednesday. I have no idea what day it is. Let me have a look. It looks like it is Wednesday, April 29th. So no blog today. I'm doing it free willy. I may do a blog for today, so go back and look. COE-LLC would be at the top of the blogs. It would have the date and the title, Hell on Earth. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go off script because I'm not really interested in a lot of the mainstreamy new age type of spiritual work to create your own reality because they're missing some vital steps. Number one, truth, fact, and dealing with their own programming. So genetically, you can have about 5 generations of programming, predictive programming on how you're going to behave. It's also going to come with visual things like gestures, sounds, movement, behavior, and then, a whole other set of vocabulary, sometimes a lot of kind of weird statements that come along with some of the programming. Now, most people right now have been kind of blown me away because the last year I spent a lot of time watching people, looking at their environments, and then watching their subtle, well, it's not so subtle because it's creating their whole reality, watching their background information as it's rolling through their mind, even if they're not even paying attention to it, they don't see, hear, or feel it. And that is what is creating the background noise. I used to have a friend of mine, it was really funny. She called it the never-ending story. That, what was playing in people's backgrounds that was creating their reality was the never-ending story. And that never-ending story probably was your mom's never-ending story, probably was your dad's never-ending story, could have been your grandpa's never-ending story, right? And that you're just playing out the same old thing, the never-ending story. So financially, we're at a pivotal point. We're at the Great Depression again, probably even the worst. So here we are, predictive programming. We never really left the Great Depression before, right? And of course, we would come back to it because we're offspring of the people who were involved in creating it and living through it. So it's just genetically inside of them. It's being created in the outside world, in the hologram, and in the environment. And it's kind of bizarre that people don't, they're always like, man, think positively, manifest your reality. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Because until you clean up the background record, the background programming, which means that you have to halt and you have to start spending a lot of time with your own mind, being quiet, meditating, journaling. I still do a huge amount of journaling. I mean, this is one I just started a couple months ago. I mean, it'll have, things in it on what I want to teach for 20 minutes with Bridgette. It also has dreams. When I wake up in the morning and have coffee, I'll write down some of my dreams that I think are significant and important. Just keynotes, not chapters. I put in here, appointments, if I have to call people. So a lot of things get in here from my daily, it's kind of how I chart my daily activities. I could always go back and look through it, to glean information or harvest information at a later date. So things get in here. So for example, recently, yesterday, as a matter of fact, I've been asking for information and prayer information kind of about what's going on with my teeth, because my teeth have been cracking, and then one of the teeth cracked, and it was the old filling and half the tooth fell out. And I don't plan on replacing it. So eventually we'll just have it pulled out. I'm not going to be putting any more mainstream predictive programming, cap teeth, root canals, crowns, or fillings, or any of that other crap in my mouth anymore. Because it's, you know, destroying my body and it's destroyed my brain. So anyway, so I had a dream. And in the dream, it was one of those all-night dreams, like I couldn't wake up from it. So I knew that it was really important. But they were navigating me and showing me through things about that I was still holding on to aspects of myself that were broken or fractured. And so my teeth were actually the visual for that, you know, to go back in and actually take a look at some old records or some information, or where, you know, things are draining energy and power from me, right? Making me tired, making me irritable, frustrated. You know, a lot of these things are what keep you from actually manifesting your reality too. Because what you want is not even close, because you're spending all this time in what you don't want. So you just keep, like attracts like. That's a law here. You just keep attracting what you don't want, right? I don't want to be alone. I don't want to die alone. I don't want to have health problems. I'm depressed, you know. These are all things that are going to keep attracting all of that to you over and over and over again. And if you think positively, it's not going to help you either. You actually have to go in and actually do the spiritual work. You have to actually get to know yourself, the things that are being stated in your mind, behind your eyes, that go through your brain, and things that you say. About 2 years ago, something happened and some guy almost collided into me in a vehicle. And, you know, like, it was all handled, came to a screeching halt. The guy barely missed me because I was paying attention, not because he was paying attention. And one of the things I said to myself was, fuck me, or something like that. And that kind of like threw me out into like a 4-month long process of, why would I say something like that to myself? It had nothing to do with me, had nothing to do with my driving, and had everything to do with the other person who was not paying attention, who was texting, who I suspected he had been drinking, you know, and just all these different things. And at the last minute, it came to a conclusion. It was okay. There was like no major damage and no, you know, long-term outcome of anything that actually had to be sorted out. But what I found was that, you know, my mom had a tendency to self-sabotage herself with statements, personal torture, punishment. She was really good at punishing herself. That would actually drag us into her, you know, self-punishment as well. And so I had to really start thinking about like these statements that were coming out of my mouth, that I would think in my mind, that were extremely destructive to myself, that were behaviors and systems of predictive programming that, you know, that I picked up. So I've had to work really hard at not making those kinds of statements, you know, not going there. If I do by accident, then I recognize it right away. You know, I nip it in the butt so that it's not repeatable. But, you know, you have all kinds of crazy, you know, statements and these, you know, words of wisdom that people live by, that they just, you know, throw out of their mouth, you know, for any kind of situation. You know, they're what I call it, their self protective garbage that they like to spew out. Yeah, so anyway, another thing that I'd like to bring in is that that's why this world is kind of like a hell. It's turning more and more into a hell because of all the predictive programming is what you don't want, but you keep providing energy towards it and moving towards it as it gets worse and worse, and collectively more people. And I think also too, the fact, like, I'm not saying anything about immigrants or other cultures, but there are a lot of other cultures that have come to the US who have been from extremely poor places. And, they want that American dream, but yet their consciousness is also kind of weighing down the whole collective and the system as well. So, hell on earth. So I just know a lot of people who create their perpetual, hell on earth. And I've talked about this before on radio. There's a book called What Dreams May Come. It's like 600 pages, and it's been out of print for a long time. And a friend of mine, my friend who used to coin the phrase, "Your never-ending story," let me read this book. And it's not anything like the movie. The movie is not, it changed it a lot to suit its, hero predictive programming dynamic that, society, craves, and they eat that up. Because, if it's all hero based, then, somebody's going to save you, aren't they? Something's going to happen. It's going to save you, because that's your programming. It's part of your programming. You never actually save yourself, right? And they don't want you to save yourself, right? They don't want you to do anything that might save yourself. And, for all your Bible people out there, there's a quote in the Bible that Jesus supposedly said. It's in the red section. And it says, Jesus' words, "Continue to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling," period. Basically saying you are on your own and nothing is coming to save you. You are your own savior, and you better get to work, because it's going to be tough work to get to the bottom of it, because you're going to have to deal with a lot of your own self-created fear, genetically, how it all plays out through your whole systems and all your systems, and how you're gesturing. Just a gesture can cause a chain of events, right? So, for example, the butterfly effect. The butterfly comes in, changes the molecular structure, changes the pattern and vibrations that go out. Well, you doing a vibration, or that's, oh man, I hate that one where they smack and they give you a look. Or, just vocabulary out of your mouth, or, just how you look, how you move your body, and just all your different things. You're changing the molecular structure around you and the chemistry of your own body that actually goes out and changes the chemistry, the reconfiguring of the construct. So you make a peptide, right? So you have a thought, a feeling runs through you, whether you're conscious of it or not. It creates a chemical. Your brain creates more chemicals than any kind of drugs that are produced on Earth. So that peptide is a chemical. It's also a hormone. So that peptide goes through your system and it attaches onto all your cells. Wherever there's openings, it'll lock right in there, and it'll produce that chemical makeup. It also, because it's a hormone, will create sweat. It'll create smell. It creates chemical in your body that's released outside of your body through your breath, through your pores sweating, through a lot of other factors. And so as soon as that chemical starts to release out into the environment, oh, guess what? You're a giant butterfly effect. All that smell, that chemistry, that hormone, everything that's being created from your brain, whether you're conscious of it or not, is changing the molecular structure of your construct, and the ability to reconstruct it in a positive way or a negative way, which is, self-creation of your own hell on earth. So in the book, What Dreams May Come, it's kind of a story. You could go look at the movie or whatever else, but there's the main character and his wife, and his wife, I think it's his wife, ends up in limbo. I think she commits suicide in the book. So she ends up in limbo. So because she has like 38 more years on her physical life, so she ends up in limbo. So he's like trying to get this angel to help him to go find where the limbo is, because he's died. He's passed over for about a year, 2 years, to go help him to get to her to try to save her. Well, what he notices, like, she's in this rundown house by herself in this black and white reality, and the house is like full of bugs and spiders and everything else, right? So she gets to live out, because she committed suicide, the next 38 years in the spirit world, in her hell on earth, so she can finish up her work. And is, you know, kind of like in this reality is like super psychologically zombied out, and so like freaked out and charged. So I mean, that's kind of like on the heightened scale, but that's what we're doing on a lower scale here, right? So what is above is below, what is below is above, right? So do you think you're going to get out of this reality and go to another one called heaven? It's going to be worse than the one you're in, unless you deal with the shit that you need to deal with in this life. And nothing's going to save you from that. Nothing in the outside world is going to help you, fix you, or save you from the spiritual personal work that you need to get done in this life. Nothing. And you could be distracted for a while. You'd be distracted with money, relationships, you know, all these different kinds of things. Yeah, it's kind of distracting for a while, but those same old issues you got that you've been carried down generationally are going to face you again, over and over and over again. What you resist will persist. And another fine law of this reality. So the thing is, like, if you're going to live in this reality and you're going to believe in all these rules, then you're going to have to learn how to play by these rules, and you don't know how to play by these rules. You can't just all of a sudden think positively and, you know, work with the rules in a positive way when you're unhealthy, you're sick. It's because your mind is sick. It's because you're sick. It's because your family line is sick, right? It's everything rolled up together. What you're eating is not creating your health. And it sure as hell isn't lending to a new vibration, a new reconstruction of your construct, to eat crappy. I mean, I try to eat the best that I can, always cook food, try to eat the best that I possibly can, because I know it matters, the butterfly effect. Let's see, you know, everything that I'm doing is creating my construct, reconstructing and reconfiguring my construct every moment of every day, because of how all the chemistry works, right? The vibration works, how it all works out. So I just want to kind of leave you with a few things. Meditation is super great. I don't recommend, you know, if you've never meditated, the seated type meditation is super tough. And you might end up fighting more with your body and listening to what's going through your mind less and less and less. It's really important to hear what's kind of going through your mind as you're sitting there quietly, because most people don't. They've got to have constant noise, and that noise has a lot of programming in it: predictive programming, emotional behavior programming, and it bypasses us actually paying attention to our own self, our own mind, and what's going on internally. So I like other forms of meditation that can help me, not so much the seated one. So if you have a lot of physical pain, that's going to be a tough one. You could sit in a chair and do it. It would be great. Set aside 20 minutes every day where you can just be quiet, that you're not laying in your bed and you're not going to sleep. And if you go to sleep, that's okay, but make sure it's, you know, a separate area than from your sleep area. But one of the best teachers that I had was a Lakota Sioux medicine woman that I studied with from like when I was 23 to 24 years old. And she was amazing. She could pull tumors out of people's energy field. They could go to the doctor, they'd be cured, but they'd get something else and come back, because, you know, Americans are victims. Yep. They're martyrs and they're victims. So they're always going to be sick. There's always going to be like the new sickness, because, you know, they can't live happy. You know, they've just got to stay in this martyr state. But that's Also genetic, you know, a genetic predisposition of behavior, emotional behavior. Attention getting, when you have a lot of sick problems and sickness, it's a very attention getting behavior. So, which means that you have to give yourself attention instead of trying to, you know, extrapolate negative attention from other people. Okay, so my Lakota Sioux medicine teacher, she said that, you know, in our gut in particular, on our right side, the male energy, we carry 7 generations back on our dad's side. And then on the left side, we carry 7 generations back on the female side. So a lot of times we're not going to know 3 generations ago if that person was mentally disabled, or if they were damaged or abused, or, you know, had things that happened to them that altered their genetics, altered their ability to think and behave, altered, you know, there was a lot of predictive programming back then, like 4 generations ago, heavy religion. You know, I know that my great grandmother moved into a city to belong to a church so that we would be safe, because, you know, you couldn't really, you know, be an outsider and survive. So, you know, there's just a lot of things that are back there that have to be brought forward. And she said the goal is to get yourself so healthy that you fix everything, not only for your family, your ancestors that have passed over, but for the 7 generations ahead. So in Native systems of belief, you know, I didn't really know this until a couple of years ago. I mean, I knew about the 7 generations, but I didn't know that each generation was 500 years. So when they're saying, you know, pay it forward, do it for the, you know, future generations, 7 generations, they're talking about 3,500 years into the future. And most of us just don't think that way. We don't curtail our behavior or change our behavior or fix our behavior, because most of us really don't care about 5 minutes from now. We don't really care about what we're doing in this world that's helping to make it worse. So we have to really kind of like start listening to the inner worlds, our mind, our emotions, and things that trigger us, and, you know, getting control over this so that we can choose the triggering we want, so that we're choosing the butterfly effect, right, of the things coming off of us and out of us into the molecular environment. And so that's what I've got to say. So I'm just going to leave you with a prayer that, you know, that I like to say, that one of my Native friends taught me, and it's just super simple, that helps me to get in alignment and get in balance, because that's where I want to be. I don't want to be on this end or that end and continue the polarity, you know, the duality, up and down seesaw. I mean, so many people I know are like on a seesaw. I mean, minute to minute, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, emotionally, like being like near them is like being in a roller coaster ride, because their emotional, you know, behavior and everything that they're doing is just causing so much chaos in the energy field. It's like, you know, dealing with a wild animal, and you're just really not going to know what their behavior is going to be next. You know, don't know if they're going to be like doing a kick in the field, or if they're going to go totally, you know, off, or, you know, if they're going to go eat, or you just don't know. And so people are just like wild animals. They're just so out of control and out of touch. They're not even like human anymore. So just a prayer that I like to say, because my teachers have always taught me to be in balance. That's the place to be in the center of my own personal medicine wheel. And what that looks like is, you know, say I have a medicine wheel, In case you haven't seen a medicine wheel, I'll just do like a simple one here. It's a circle with 4 directions. And, you know, once it's created 3-dimensionally, whether you can see it or not, it's going to have a lot more dimensions to it. And it's they'd like to do them with rocks and do a medicine wheel built. But so say this is, so that's my little medicine wheel. And I want to be here in the middle of it all. So say this is my medicine wheel, right? And I'm hanging. Cherokees say that, you know, like the medicine wheel is hanging and the strands, it's being held by spider web strands in the universe, right? And then there's a fire in the center, and that's where we need to be. So say this is my medicine wheel, right? And say, you know, each direction, you know, deals with a different aspect of our life: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And say, for example, here, I'm going to say this is the south end of my wheel. Well, the south end can deal with the physical world. If we need physical healing, that's where we go. Our childhood, all of our past, you know, physical world stuff is dealt with on that south end of the medicine wheel. And each, you know, tribe will have their own set of belief systems. So this is just a general. So say, for example, I haven't healed from my childhood. And I'm still behaving at 51 years old like I'm 8. So all of my physical behavior, everything that I do is, you know, throwing temper tantrums and fighting with the world because, you know, I haven't really developed myself as an adult. So you're going to keep having these episodes, right? Here's your medicine wheel in balance in the universe. And then you start to act up. Well, it's going to pull your wheel down. Well, what's going to happen? Well, all your experiences, your experience bundles, everything that you've built on your wheel for this life is going to slide off. Your cheese is going to slide completely off your cracker. And then it's going to take you a long time to get it stabilized. And then you're going to have to rebuild. You might have to get a new job. You might have to go back to school. You might have to get a place to live because you're homeless, because your behavior and what you're thinking and everything that you're doing caused you to come out of it to be unbalanced. And so you lost your shit, literally slid off. And then trying to get your wheel back in balance is going to be, some people never come back into balance once they've lost all their shit. You've lost your shit because it's hard. It's difficult. So wouldn't it be better just to be in balance and maintain everything and deal with things as they come up? Just be awake and aware and seeing and listening and feeling, right? Instead of having your wheel and everything slide off. So that's kind of how I explain it to people, because that's the way that I see it. And I don't want to do that anymore. Nope, I'm not living in the polarity, you know, seesaw where, I lose my, you know, south-facing part of the wheel, tips it, everything slides off. Then I got to go to the north side of the wheel to gain spirituality again. And then I go overboard with that. And then I tip it that way. And I tip it this way, tip it that way. I just want to imbalance where I'm not feeding the light. I'm not feeding the dark. I'm not allowing my inner self to take me places that I don't want to go. Oops, it looks like I blipped out for a minute there. All right, everybody, that's all I've got for you. 20 minutes with Bridgette. Anyway, today was 30 minutes with Bridgette because it was a little bit more complicated. But have a great day. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll see you tomorrow.